Hey, hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, friends. Welcome back to our sessions on SQL structured query language. So we have successfully completed 4 days with respect to the ongoing program, and today we'll be continuing a bit further. We are going to understand a new topic, but before that, I'll quickly recap what we have covered in the previous session. Then we'll start for the day. Right. So, friends, in the last session, we have understood the concept of data types, right? So, you take any programming language, okay, or a query language, you generally have this concept of data types, okay? So, when I specifically talk about SQL data types, okay, we have numeric data types, then character or string data types, then date and time related data types. Okay, we also have other data types. So out of these, the wide or most widely used data types are numeric, because in general we'll work, majority of the work will be dependent with respect to numbers, right? So under the numeric data types we have understood tiny int, then small int, medium int, and finally big int. All of these are used to store only integers. It means the values which does not have any kind of decimal values, no floating values, no floating point values, only integers. Okay, so again, what makes the difference between these data types which specifically hold integers is, you know the first and the foremost difference is with respect to the storage, then the range of values that are assigned for each and every type. Okay, especially for integer data type categories, the type that we have two attributes. One is signed and the next one is unsigned, right? So it is signed and unsigned. All right. So when I specifically talk about signed, it contains both negative and positive values. Unsigned, it holds only the values which are positive, okay, including zero. So if you are using any of these data types, okay, it might be tiny int, small int, or medium int or big int. Okay, so if you are using just these data types and if you don't mention either it is signed or unsigned, by default it represents signed. For unsigned category, you are supposed to mention explicitly. Okay, the user have to mention unsigned tiny int, unsigned int. In this way, unsigned keyword attribute should be mentioned as is. Right? So all of these types of integer data types, the difference is with respect to the storage friends. Okay, so probably this takes 1 byte, small int takes 2, medium int takes 3, int takes 4, big int takes 8. So I just remembered for as these are very small in number, I'm easily able to memorize the values with respect to the storage, but with respect to the range, no. Even the folks, the student, whoever is joining the sessions and going through these particular sessions, my sincere advice is don't memorize the sessions. I mean, don't memorize the ranges. My bad. Okay, so that is again a foolish thing, not required, because these ranges will vary from one system to the other system. Okay, I'm using MySQL as part of this particular program. Probably when you go and use some other RDBMS system, say it as Postgres. Yes, Postgres may allow tiny int, may or may not. It depends, right? So don't assume that all the data types will be same across all the SQL data types will be same across all the systems. No, if they change, even their ranges may also change. Okay, so don't simply waste your memory for by hearting or memorizing these ranges. Not required. Then we also discussed what are the other data types that we have under numeric. We have decimal. We also have float and double, right? So these three are used to store decimal values. If a column has, or if a column needs to store values which are related to decimal values, yes, we are supposed to use decimal, float, or double. The reason is because these particular data types related to integers, they don't store any kind of decimal values, right? So difference again, for the fixed decimal numbers, you'll go with decimal. Again, if you want to make the precision to a very less range, you can go with float, and double you can go to any of the limit. Okay, so that's how the ranges vary. Again, these particular data types that we have for storing the decimal values also change with respect to the storage size. Then next to numeric, we also discuss non-numeric, that is nothing but character or string data types. The first one is char. So char is used to store any of the non-numeric text which has fixed length. Okay, so when you are defining the data type as char, you are also supposed to mention the size. Excuse me. Mention the size so that it gets fixed for each and every value present in the column. Next to char, we also have varchar. Great. Let's continue. We also have varchar. Varchar is representing variable character. Okay. So even though if it asks to mention the size, okay, even though if you mention the size for each and every value present in the column will not be fixed. It is dynamic. But in with respect to char, it is fixed. It is static. Okay, even yesterday we have understood the differences by taking an example. Okay, when you try to uh, store IT using 10 spaces using char data type, so only the first two will be occupied. Rest of the 8 spaces will be free. But for varchar, it occupies only, it gives only assigns 2 spaces. That's it. Variable character. Then we also have text. In text, we have uh, tiny text, medium text, some big text, long text. So all these are also part of text. Again, the ranges, depending upon the range of the text, it changes. So for character, the range is 0 to 255, but for variable character, it is 0 to 65,535, right? So these two, sizes are important. I mean, the storage size. the range. Apart from it, no. Then we also discussed the data types which are related to date, time, together, date, time. Right? Yes. So in MySQL, the format is fixed: year, then month, date. So this is the, even when you are trying to insert the values, make sure that you use the same format. Okay, for time, hour, minute, seconds. Okay, we can store date alone. Okay, using year. Okay, we can also store year alone using year data type. Okay, so together date, time, right? So these are the data types that we have understood, and we also discussed bool and bit for storing boolean values and binary value. The binary values, zeros and ones, bits, using bit data type. Right. I assume all of you have done some good amount of hands-on practice. Okay. So without any further delay, we'll start the next topic. And today the topic will be interesting because probably for the first half of this particular topic, we'll go with the hands-on, and then probably I'll take it as a theory class. Right. So today the topic is operators. What do you mean by an operator? In simple, operators are nothing but the symbols. Okay, so when if you are familiar with any of the programming language, you know, for sure we'll have this concept called operators. In all the programming languages, yes, we'll have operators because this is the foundations. This is a very fundamental topic that one is supposed to learn before going to the core concepts. In the same way, as part of SQL, okay, operators is taking the same, stand. It is again a fundamental concept and it represents the same. Okay, so if you are familiar with any other languages, you can sit back and listen to the class because this is not a new topic probably for you, but for the folks who are joining, who are learning for the first time this operators topic, yes, you may feel it as a different or the weird topic, but it is very simple. It is very simple. The reason is we are learning these operators probably from our LKG, not LKG, probably from our first standard. Yes. Okay, so I'll take back all of you to first standard, to second standard, those days. Okay, so today the topic is operators, which are actually representing the symbols. What does these symbols do? They do some kind of operations. So using operators, using the symbols, I'll do some operations. Okay, let's see what are the different types of operators that we have in SQL and how are they used. We'll understand one by one, friends. Okay, right. So anyhow, I'll execute because at least for some point of time, let me show you how these operators work. I'll not do it here. I'll go back to my SQL workbench. So for that, I'm creating a table, friends, and my table name is products. Okay, so 1 minute. Yep. So the syntax for table creation: what, create table keyword followed by table name. Okay, so within the parenthesis, within the braces, we are supposed to pass at least one column name with the data type should be given mandatory. Okay, so as part of my products table, I have product ID, product name, stock. Okay, out of this stock, how many got sold, then the unit price. Okay, then the discount, how much discount are we providing to the customer, all the information we have. So let us create a table. But before that, what is the first step? First step is make sure the database is selected. Did I select the database? Yes. Either I can do the same using query. If not, double click on the database name, so that automatically it gets selected. Okay, schema is representing the database. But I'll go back to company DB. Right. So I'm creating a table, and the table name is products. It got created. I'm not wasting time, because I'm supposed to focus on operators instead of repeating the same topic again and again. So this is again the simple way. Column name followed by data type, and we also have something else called primary key. What is this primary key? We'll understand. Okay, so let us not focus on something which we are not aware of. Don't focus on what is primary key. Ignore. Come back to the next column name. See, the data type is varchar 50. It means till 50 characters I can have under product name. Okay, so the product names can range from 0 to 50. That's what. Okay, then followed by stock column. It is integer. I used integer. Then sold, integer. Unit price, since it is representing price, I can also have it in decimals, right? So I went with a data type which is related to floating values, decimal. Okay, so you see, I can have decimal values till two places. Then discount, the same. Okay, right. So table got created. Let me refresh. Did it got created? Yes. Okay. Now let me insert some records. So insert comes under which language, friends? Use chat and tell me insert comes under which language out of the five languages. DDL, DML, DQL, DCL, TCL. Out of these five, insert comes under which language? DML, data manipulation language. We are trying to manipulate the data. So insert is part of DML. Okay. So the syntax, I'm using the second syntax. The reason is I'm passing the values for all the columns. So I'm, skipping the column names, not required. So these are my records. At a time, I'm inserting four. Four records, done. Okay. So for better understanding, you see here, can I get the data as well? Yes. How can I understand that, the data, the records got inserted? How can I fetch the data? Which command should be used? Make it fast, friends. Which command should be used to fetch the data in order to, have a look at my data? Okay, at the table. Select. Select is the command which helps us to fetch the data, retrieve the data, right? So instead of using select command, I'll go and use a shortcut. Okay, you see, this is my table products under company DB. Okay, so if you go towards the right side, you see a table icon. Just click on it. This will, give you the table view of that particular table. Okay, it executes the select query, database dot table name. Okay, and this is our data. So we have the data. I'll go back and I'll start explaining operators one by one. Okay, so the first type of operators that we have in SQL are arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators, yes. So what are the arithmetic operators what is the purpose of arithmetic operators? The purpose of arithmetic operators is to perform mathematical operations. To perform basic mathematical operations, we go and use arithmetic operators. What are the different types of arithmetic operators we have? We have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus. Okay, so we understand all the five together, but probably I may not concentrate more on arithmetic operators because we are, well uh, habituated of using these, or we have good exposure to these operators because we are using these, or you know we started learning this from, as I have discussed earlier, from first standard or second standard of our time. Okay, we started learning these topics, and still we are using as part of our life. Yes, isn't it? At any moment, okay, in a day, at least once we'll use this in our daily life. Just go and cross check here and there. Yes. So addition operator used for adding values. Subtraction operator helps us to get the difference. Multiplication operator performs multiplication, multiplies the values. Division operator helps us to divide the values. But probably modulus, we guys are not aware. So we'll focus more on modulus, right? So first I'll take a query for addition operator. So you see, am I using addition operator in the query? Yes. Where? Here. Right. So let us understand this particular query, friends. Select column 1. What is the column 1? Product name. So product name should be retrieved in the output. Then what is the second column? The second column is sum of unit price and discount. So where do we have unit price? This one. Discount, this one. So together add both the values and I'm giving an alias name as price after discount. Okay, what is the price of the product after discount is what we are calculating, and we are giving for each and every product. Okay, so this as is representing, or generally it is a keyword which is used for giving an alias name. Okay, a nickname, right? So from table name, this is what the syntax for select. Am I right? Yes, the syntax for select is select star from table name. But am I do I want all the columns? No, I want only two. What are the two columns? One is product name, and the second one is sum of unit price and discount. Okay, so if you observe properly, I'm using addition operator. So let me execute and get the results. See, is it 1050 in the first case? Let's go and check here. 1000 plus 50, 1050, 800 plus 30. You know, uh, 800 plus 30, it is 830. 500 plus 20, 520. Okay, so in this way, if you go and check, we'll have the values added. Right. Then let me go back. Yes. So we also have In the similar way, let me use subtraction operator. See, whenever you feel that if you don't want to have this output, the table, just click on this cross mark so that you'll not see the table. Okay, that particular view is gone, and you can see the editor pane properly where we write the queries. Again, the same product name, then followed by stock minus sold, so that it actually gives me the remaining stock. So this is the old stock. Okay, so if I remove the stock, if I remove the sold items from the stock, I'll get the remaining stock, right? Yes. So let me, execute. So you can cross check, friends. 100 minus 45, it should be 55. Then, so same calculations, 80, 70, 40. Okay. So in short, we are doing subtraction. Okay. Right. Then we have multiplication operator, which helps us to perform multiplication. Product name, I want to fetch product name. Then I also want to get the value of sold. Okay. So this is, where do we have sold? This is sold and unit price. So when this sold multiplied with unit price, you'll get the revenue. What is the revenue that got generated? Can be obtained when you multiply, the sold pieces multiplied with the price. So we are trying to get it. I'll execute. Same. Simple. Focus on the syntax. That's it. Even the syntaxes are also very simple. I'm using select command. In the select command, whatever the columns that are required, I'm just using them. And for these column names, I am also providing an alias name. Okay. So if you, yes, you can change the names using, this ask keyword, so that, it helps us to give an alias name, then get the output. And finally, the division operator. So what am I doing here? I'm performing division. Okay, I'm dividing this unit price of each and every product by 2. I'll get the half price. So if I want to check the half price, yes, divide by 2. So let me get the half price of each and every product. Yes. Okay, done. So I'm not focusing more. The main reason is we are well, you know, we had good amount of understanding with respect to addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. But we also have the fifth type of arithmetic operator. It is modulus. What is modulus operator, or what does this modulus operator does? Modulus operator is represented using percentage symbol, and this actually modulus operator returns us the remainder. Okay, when you perform modulus operator, okay, the division operator is providing us the quotient. The modulus operator returns us the remainder. Okay, so probably I have to go back and explain all these topics. See, 2, 10. So 10 divided by 2 we represent like this. Is this same? Yes. So 10 5s are 10. So 10 minus 10, it is 0. This is what we do. This is what we have learned in our school days. Now, I'll talk about all these, uh, I'll talk about the terminology. This is called as coefficient. Okay, so the coefficient will be returned by the division operator. So When you use division operator, this is returning us the coefficient. This is 0 is named as remainder. So when you use modulus operator, modulus operator returns as remainder. Then what is this 2 called? What is 10 called? Can someone answer the question? What is 2 and 10 called in a division in this particular example? Any idea? To our school days. Go back to our school days. When we are a kid, 2 is divisor. Good. What is 10? 10 is called as dividend. Yep. Okay. So even though if you memorize, okay, if not, this would actually, uh, if you try to understand, so you can actually understand the operators well. Okay. As probably SQL have only these five under arithmetic, but if you go on to other languages, yes, we'll have more. Okay. So division operator returns as coefficient and modulus operator returns as remainder. So just remember in that way. Done. We are done. Then done with the arithmetic operators. Now next to arithmetic operators we have comparison operators. What are the comparison operators? What is the purpose of comparison operators is they are used to compare the values. If you have two values and if you would like to compare them, go and use comparison operators. So actually you mean the greater than, less than, exactly. The same operators that we are using from our school days, you know, when we are kid, the same operators, the comparison operators, greater than, less than, greater than equals to, less than equals to, not equals to, all of these are comparison operators. Okay, I'll start with equals to. See, am I using any comparison operator in this query? Yes. You see here, I'm using is equals to. Let me go from the starting. Select product name, that is column 1, then column 2, unit price from products. So this is select query, the select query syntax. To the select query syntax, I'm adding a clause. So what is this clause? We'll understand tomorrow, not today. So I'm adding a condition where unit price is equals to 800. So only if the product, I mean, if the values under this unit price column, if they are 800, only those, records to be returned. But do you get all the columns? No, only product name, unit price. So I'll go back to the table. So this is my table, unit price 800, probably this one. So I should get only phone and 800 as the output. So let me check. Yes, we are correct, right? So I used is equal to, which is a comparison operator. Okay, if the unit price, if the value under this unit price is 800, only then it results, or it filters those records, and from those records it returns as only product name and unit price, right? Next to it we have not equal to, but not equal to in SQL is represented using exclamatory is equal to or less than, greater than. Either of these two symbols can be used for representing not equal to. Okay, so I'm taking the same query I'm using, but instead of is equals to, I'm going with not equals to. Let's see. So instead of this one particular record 2, I should get rest of the 3 records. That is laptop 1000, tablet 500, monitor 300. Okay, let us see. Yes. So one thing that you're supposed to understand is SQL is very simple. Okay. To be honest, SQL is very simple. If you are good at English and if you are capable of memorizing the syntaxes, you can play in SQL. Okay, especially the foundation topics. Okay, they are very simple, but it requires some kind of practice. Okay, don't take it for granted. So Akil has mentioned many times that you know it is very SQL is very easy. So probably I may not practice. If I just listen to the lecture, I'll become a you know I'll become good at SQL. No, impossible. Practice is mandatory. Okay, so type something in the sense, start typing these queries one by one. You'll get some good amount of knowledge, right? Next to not equals to, we have greater than. The same product name, stock from the table name, but the condition is different. If the stock is greater than 100, only those products and the stock should be returned. So the condition met? Yes, the condition met. So probably for the rest of the two products, the stock is not greater than 100. So we should, look into those products. You see here, I'm using less than. If you observe properly across these queries, you know, all the queries are same, but the condition part is only being changed. Okay, where stock less than 150. If the stock is less than 150, it should return us. So laptop and monitor, the stock is less than 150. Right. Then let me also use greater than or equals to. So going with unit price greater than 500, or if it is greater than or equals to 500, those product names and the unit prices should be returned. So you see, even it is 500, it will be returned because I am using greater than or equals to either of the condition. Either if the value is greater than 500 or if it is 500, it should be returned. Right? Yes. Then let me also try using less than. So will I get the product which is exactly 500? Yes, we should get. Even though if I'm using less than, I'm also using equals to, right? So if the value or if the price is 500, I have to, get that particular product in the output. I'm not using less than, I'm using less than or equals to. Got it. So we got some good amount of, understanding between the arithmetic operators and comparison operators. The reason is we are very familiar with these operators from long back, right? So addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus. Under arithmetic, under comparison, we have totally 6: greater than, less than, greater than or equals to, less than or equals to, not equals to. That's it. Very simple. Now comes logical operators. Next to comparison operators, we have logical operators in SQL. So under logical operators, there are in total three: and, or, not. Okay, so these three operators have two different symbols. Either you can represent and with and, or double ampersand is also and. In the same way, or double pipe, vertical pipe. If not or exclamatory. Let us understand what is this and do. And logical operator, it returns true if both the operators return true. See, we'll take, if you have more than one condition, if you have two or more than two conditions, we generally use these logical operators to combine these conditions. Okay, so especially if you are using AND operator, logical AND operator, all the conditions should satisfy. Only then, you know, the output will be true. If not, even if one condition fails, the output will be false. So let me explain you by taking an example. I'm using, I'll make it into two lines. So the same query, but you see, the condition is different. How many, I mean, within the condition, you see, I have two conditions. Unit price should be greater than 500 and stock should also be greater than 100. Okay. Only if both the conditions are true, we'll get the output. What we'll have in the output: product name, name of the product, price of the product, and stock of the product. Let's see how many products will satisfy this condition. Only one? Yes. Is the price greater than 500? Yes. Is the stock more than 100? Yes. Because both the conditions are met, I can see only a one product in the output. Okay. So that's how logical AND operates. Okay. That's how logical AND works. But if you take logical OR, it's not like AND. Even at least one particular condition satisfies out of all, you know, it results as all the queries. I mean, it results as all the, rows, records. Further, again, we have an example. See, I'm taking the same example. Am I changing? Yes, Akhil, I see the change. What is the difference that you have observed? Here you are using and here we are using or. Yes, but apart from it, nothing, friends. I have changed only the operator. Logical AND was replaced with logical OR. Now you see, even if this condition satisfies, we'll have the output, or if this second condition satisfies, we'll have that particular product in the output. Okay, so let me execute for better understanding. See, unit price greater than 500. So in the first two cases, yes, this got satisfied. That is the reason you have the products in the output. But in the third record, is the first condition satisfying? No. The first condition was not satisfied. 500 is not greater than 500. 500 is equals to 500. Right? But why do we have tablet in the output is, tablet product in the output is because of second condition. Stock greater than 100 is the condition. How much is the stock? It's 150. Is it satisfying? It is resulting true. Yes, it is resulting true. Because of that, I can see stock. I mean, I can see tablet in the output. So the difference you may have noticed between logical AND and logical OR. Logical AND will return true if both the conditions, I mean, whatever the conditions that we have specified should be true. Even if one condition fails, it does not return the output. But excuse me, in case of OR, at least if one condition satisfies, you'll have that particular record in the output. So that's the difference between logical and logical OR. Next to logical and logical OR, we have logical NOT. So this is actually, used to reverse these logical, statements. If you see here, what am I doing? The same product name, unit price from products, the same table. But the condition says where not unit price is equals to 800. Okay. If the unit price is not 800, then fetch the records. That's what it's mentioning. Let me see. Do you have any of the product with unit price 800? No. So it is simply, representing, or it is also used as the not. not equals to. You can get the same output using the same this query. Yes. Instead of not, I'll replace this not instead of not equals to operator. Not is logical operator. Not equals to is comparison operator. Okay. So the same output can be achieved using logical, I mean, you know, not equals to operator. The same, right? So till here, it's very clear, I assume, because it's very the basic operators that we have learned. At a quick glance, we'll understand what we have covered. Arithmetic operators: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus. Then followed to arithmetic operators, we started comparison operators. Under comparison operators, we have discussed greater than, less than, greater than or equals to, less than or equals to, is equals to, not equals to, right? After comparison operators, we started logical operators. We understood logical and, then logical or and logical not. Simple, done. Now we have special operators in SQL. What are these special operators? Probably I will not use the workbench from here onwards. I'll explain here itself. Excuse me. The first special operator we have is between. What does this between do? Between operator helps us to check the value between a range. Okay, if you want to check a value is between this range, you can go and use between. Example, here is the example. See, I'm using the select command, but my condition is where salary between 40,000 and 16,000. So this is the condition. Okay, if the employees lie between 40,000 and 60, if the salaries lie between this range, all the employees first name, last name, and the salary will be returned. Okay, will I get all the details? No, I'll get only three details about each and every employee. One is the first name, second one last name, third is salary. Instead of these, if I mention select star, then probably I'll get all the details of each and every employee who lies in this range. Excuse me. So from the table employees between this range. Next to between we have in operator. In operator helps us to yep, let's continue, friends. The next operator under the special operators is in operator. So this in operator helps us to check whether a value exists in a list of values. So between is you are providing a range. Okay, for between. But for in, we provide a list. Okay, what's the difference? Example, we'll take an example. See, I'm using the select command. Select query is being used. Select first name, last name from employees, from the table name employees, where department is a column in this table, employees, where department in sales, marketing, HR. So whoever employee works, in these three departments. If the department is sales or marketing or HR, only the first name and the last name of these employees will be returned. Okay, you are providing a list of values. In this list of values, you are checking if your value is present. Okay, assume if I am an employee, if I work in HR department, I'll be my first name and last name will be given as output in the output. But what if I work in production department? Is production mentioned in this list? No. So since production was not mentioned, my first name and last name will not be disclosed. So that makes the difference between and in. Then next to between and in, we have like. Like operator, it performs matching friends based on the patterns. Okay, so how was the matching done is using two while characters. One is percentage and the second one is underscore. Okay, how is this done exactly? We'll understand. Let me take an example. You see, I'm taking a select query, select first name, last name from table name employees, where first name like, where first name, in the first name, like the pattern. This is the pattern. What is the pattern? J percentage. If the first name starts with J and percentage represents n number of characters. Okay, this percentage while symbol, whatever we are discussing, it will map to any number of characters. Okay, even if there is no character also, that doesn't mean. Examples: Jaydeep. If there is an employee called Jaydeep, the person, the pattern matches because the name starts with J, and next to J I can have any number of characters matched. But if I have like this, is the pattern matching? No. Is the name starting with J? No. Then your name will not be will not be written in the output. So upon the pattern, if only the pattern matches, like operator returns the output. Okay, so when you use like, two while characters can be used. One is percentage and the second one is underscore. Percentage can take any number of characters, either any or no. Even if it is zero also, it doesn't mind. But underscore takes only one character. Underscore takes only one character. For example, if I have like this J, this is my pattern. Will JD be given as output? No. After J, I should have only two characters. That is what underscore tells. But after J, how many characters do I have? 6. So here probably a name called Joy can be given as output. If this person is actually present in this employees table, yes, the pattern got matched and the first name and the last name of this employee will be returned as output. So that makes the difference between percentage and underscore. So these are the two wildcards that like operator uses for patterns, for mapping these patterns. Okay, so for this better understand the differences between percentage and underscore. That's it. You need not by heart. This is very simple topic. Not by hearting is not required. Then next to like, we also have not like. So this actually does reverse to like. Since I'm using not, if you observe, before like I'm using not, the same. So whoever name which does not have this pattern will be given as output. Since I'm using not like. Understood? Okay. So wherever this pattern mismatches, yes, return all of them in the output. All employee details will be returned as the output. Right? Yes. Then next to Not like we have is null. Is null operator checks whether if the value is null or not. Okay, so if you see the same select query, but the condition is different. Where department is null. Okay, if any of the employees department is null. Okay, if the value is null, those employee details, first name and the last name, should be written as output. Is null operator. We also have is not null. Okay, we also have is not null. What does this is not null does? It does quite opposite to is null. Like operator and not like operator. How are they acting? One opposite to the other. In the same way, is a null and is not null does. So taking the same example, but if I use is not null, it returns all the employees who have the department names. If they have any value under the department column, okay, so their first name and the last name will be written as output. Right. So these are the special characters, I mean, the special operators that we have in SQL. We also have bitwise operators. But if I start or if we try to understand these bitwise operators, it will be complicated at the beginning stage itself. Probably we'll understand in the later sessions. Okay. So we have many of the people joining as freshers. Okay. They don't have any kind of, you know, exposure to SQL, and these are the basic sessions. Let us not trouble them initially. We'll take the discussion uh, a step ahead in the coming sessions. Okay, so we also have bitwise operators in SQL where we deal with the bits. Okay, right. Then the next operators that we have is set operators. What are the set operators that we have? We have union, union all, intercept. Okay, I'll talk about these three operators in the coming sessions. Not today because no, it's not relevant if I discuss them at this moment. Okay, so probably I'll do it with some examples. Okay, I'll talk about union, union all, and intersect, because these two are very important, union and union all operators, how they are used and what are the differences between union and union all. We'll discuss post a topic called joins. Okay, so not today but in the coming sessions. That's it, friends. So today we have understood operators, and I believe that we had good amount of knowledge. We have grabbed a good amount of knowledge on operators topic. So if you feel that this session is really great and the sessions are beautiful, before you leave, just give a like and also ask share across your multiple channels, okay, your connections. Ask your relatives or whomever it might be, ask them to join these sessions and you start learn SQL. Okay, SQL is a primary skill in today's market. Okay, so as part of this session, we are going to understand all the fundamental concepts of SQL. Okay, you'll not, at least you'll be capable of solving any beginner level questions with respect to SQL, right? So use the sessions in a right way, and before you leave, fill the feedback link. Okay, give your valuable suggestions, what else you are expecting from us. We'll try to reach. And yep, before I conclude, any questions? Because hardly I feel like the basic topics, right? You may not get good amount of questions, but as we move on, yes. So how hope I hope everyone is loving our sessions, and that is the reason the same folks I am able to see these people are joining on daily basis and attending the sessions. Thank you so much, friends. 1 minute, man. 239. Okay. Right. I assume no questions. Yep. If no questions, that's all for the day. Thank you so much for joining. So before you leave, feedback link has been shared. So provide your valuable feedback and also give a like. Hit the like button, friends. Thank you so much. Right. So we'll meet in the tomorrow session. Until then, take care. Bye. Signing off. Have a great day.